Welcome back to Transcriber from Reddit. Today's topic, I will be reviewing the Ring.com footage that was leaked via Yashar Ali's Substack article, which I recently did a full transcription of, and which you can find if you go back to the previous video, but I will also link it in the description below. Now, before I begin the video, I do want to say this. Hillary is currently 8 months pregnant as she's talking to Steven Crowder. This footage was taken on June 26, 2021. If we look at the timeline, at this point, they've been married since August 25th, 2012. As far as we know, she miscarried in 2020, and she was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome in the same year. That is a painful neurological disorder. We're not sure exactly when the twins were conceived, but we do know that Steven decided to go for chest surgery on July 21st, 2021. And sometime in the middle of August 2021, the twins were born. A couple months later, December of that same year, is when the filing for divorce started and the divorce proceedings were started. I also want to point out here that as you're watching this, regardless whose side you're on or if you haven't picked a side yet, ask yourself, would this be okay if Hillary was your daughter, your sister, your best friend, or your mother? Would this be okay how she's being treated here? Also ask yourself, why do they only have one car? And why, for someone who is pro-life, why is Steven smoking a cigar and blowing cigar smoke at his heavily pregnant wife? Let's jump right into the video.
I drew a boundary. No, you just did it. I drew a boundary at abusive and cruel. You were not taking...
Now here, Steven is the first one to use the word abusive. And he's saying, you are not taking the car. Again, they only have one car. So why do they not have two cars? Considering the amount of money that Steven makes. And now I'm not sure if Hillary works or not. Last anyone knows is that she used to work as a sales manager for her father's business. And currently she works as an interior designer. But why only one car? And why is Steven the first person to use the word abusive here? Now, allegedly, when the Substack article leaked, he was going to therapy for his anger management issues.
Because if you refuse...
Now here he says, if you refuse to do wifely things. Well, what are wifely things? And why is her not doing wifely things mean that she is not allowed to take the car? I find that interesting. Not only does he say it's abusive, now it could be he's referring to her unwillingness to do wifely things, whatever is included in that, as abusive. But if she's refusing to do what he considers wifely things, but could allegedly be harmful to her pregnant children, which wins out here?
To do wifely things, then I will...
So then he says he will go pick up the groceries.
Go pick up the groceries.
Now, did you catch that? Hillary said that there are no groceries. Now, either this is him gaslighting her, because as far as she knew, there were no groceries, or maybe she did forget. Maybe she knew and she forgot, or she's pretending not to know.
I'd be happy.
Steaks, wood pellets, my grill. I know it's an unreasonable request, but I'll go do it. How about you first?
So here we have the first jump of the video. When the recording started, it was at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, 12:34, 58 seconds. The jump happens at 12:35, 22 seconds, and immediately cuts to 12:36 and 3 seconds. Here, Hillary's stance doesn't change in between that time jump, and her bending down could have triggered the Ring camera footage to start recording again.
Hillary, how do you respect the men?
Here he's asked her, how do you respect the men? Now, this is not the sign of a good question. Why? Because he doesn't see, he immediately phrases it as third person. How do you respect the men? The men, as if the men are her overarching authority figure, however nebulous or however many of them may be. He doesn't say, how do you respect me, Steven Crowder? How do you respect your husband? No, he says, how do you respect the men? Immediately denigrating her by putting her in position to men. Respecting the men. As if the men are a level higher than her. Now, I'm not sure why he says the other men you see, the mother comes back. Now, we're not to the part of the next jump, so I do find this phrasing interesting, because this is before any divorce was filed, or even before he allegedly got a divorce attorney first, or before she allegedly found out about the divorce.
No. How do the man make it? No, you're not taking the bus.
Now, throughout this entire exchange, she's standing there, and now if you were really, really red-pilled, you would expecting her to be throwing a hissy fit. You would expect her to be throwing a tantrum of some kind, because you assume that all women are just emotional. Not that Steven couldn't possibly be hiding behind a wall of logic and acting like he doesn't have any emotions. But she's being calm, she's being as controlled as she can possibly be. She's not interrupting him. She's being very docile here. Almost like she's a non-confrontational type. Now that is interesting. If Steven Crowder, if this footage was meant to show Steven Crowder a positive light, I would expect her to be arguing violently right back at him. But instead, he is telling her things. He is telling her that she's not allowed to take the car, and that he drew a boundary because that is abusive. Perhaps her not doing wifely things is abusive. This is all him directed at her, and at this point, she's not engaging. At least, hardly at all.
You're not taking the car.
Steven,
You are not.
then I will ask them to pick me up.
So, Steven made a deal about the groceries. Groceries need to be picked up. Again, she's 8 months pregnant with twins. Would you, if you had a wife, or if you had a sister or daughter that was pregnant with twins, and their significant other was talking to them like Steven was to Hillary here, would you be okay with that? Either way, he's talking about picking up the groceries, and then telling her, no, the car is restricted. Now, she offers up a good counterpoint to that. She could ask someone to pick her up. They have family members in the area, surely.
Would you like me to ask?
Steven immediately acts like it's a threat, or that she is threatening him.
Steven.
Get an Uber.
Do you really want your pregnant wife to go with a stranger in an Uber? Keep in mind, this is 2021. It's not 2020. Yes, COVID was still going on, there were still some lockdowns. However, this is Texas, and as I'm pretty sure we all knew, Texas was not nearly as locked down as many other states were during 2021. Also, this is June 26. It is 4 days before his surgery on July 1st. His surgery would have no bearing on this argument.
Okay, Stephen, I can't.
Feeling some constraints?
Stephen.
Like, I can't
Stephen.
go.
Yes, she would be feeling some constraints, Stephen, because you make a big deal about groceries first, and then you tell her that she can't take the car. Then when she says, well, I could have a family member take me or a friend, you immediately tell her, no, you need to ride with a stranger.
Listen to me. Listen to me. You want to walk out right now? Listen to me. I can't go to the gym. I can't go to my parents. I can't call my friends. I can't be home. You're going to take the car and leave?
You're going to take the car and leave me here, he says. But how would that affect him being able to call anyone to come pick him up? How would that affect him being able to just go out and take an Uber maybe instead of her? How does that affect him? How does him restraining her ability to go out and her method of choosing how to go out, how does that pertain to her? Remember, he told her first that she could not take the car. And then when she brought up the suggestion of, well, a family member or friend could pick me up, he goes, no, you have to take an Uber. And this isn't unreasonable because she is 8 months pregnant with twins.
Here. Hillary, just think of how boxed in you've made me.
What?
Stephen, you are boxing in Hillary, which is causing you to be boxed in return. Notice how he's hampering on how she is doing this to him, even though he is the one putting down these restrictions on her.
You need me to pick up. I'll get it. I'll be back when I'm back.
No, that doesn't work either. You'll be back when you're back.
Here she says, okay, well, the groceries, okay, I will pick them up and then let me know what else you need. I'll be back when I'm back. In this case, he's saying that doesn't work either. Now, if he was going to be reasonable, you would expect him to say, well, look, I need you to be back by this time. Because this is the time that I need to be at the set by, or this is the time that I need to go to do my maybe pre-authorization check for a surgery he's going to have again in 4 days.
Doesn't work either.
But he doesn't.
Do you understand the difference between my life being set to the second and you going, I'll be back when I'm back?
Stephen, you are reclined in a sitting position on a sofa. You do not look like you're in a rush. If you were in a rush, I would expect you to tell me, hey, this is what is going on in my schedule today. And because of this, I need the car back by this time. That is far more reasonable than you whining at your pregnant wife saying, well, no, that doesn't work either.
Stephen?
Here, Hillary, now, I did neglect to describe the scene before at the beginning of the video. The Ring camera footage is of a spread out, spacious backyard patio style setup. Stephen is reclined on a beige, closer to white sofa with one socked foot up on his leg while he's smoking a cigar and facing his wife. Up until now, Hillary, while she was wearing a blue shirt, her belly sticking out because she's heavily pregnant, and wearing gray sweatpants, she was originally at the table that was closest to Stephen. a little side table. Now she paced over to the door. She's holding her hand around her face, like she's trying to either restrain herself from saying something or maybe just maintain composure.
The only way out of this is discipline.
Now, as he says, the only way out of this is discipline and respect, she exhales and places her hand on her very pregnant belly.
It's the only way out of it.
Now, he says the only way out of this is discipline and respect. Now, think of those words. Would you expect a husband to be telling his wife the only way out of this is discipline and respect? Or would you expect that coming from a father to his daughter? This is important because this is how many conservatives try to sell marriage. Now, they sell it as the man is taking care of the woman. What they're selling is verbiage like this, where it is more like a father talking to his daughter.
An impact.
We are at an impasse.
Good.
She acknowledges, yes, we are at an impasse when he says we are at an impasse.
Because you can't have any discipline or respect.
Here again, he says you can't have any discipline or respect. Versus you don't have any discipline and respect. Don't versus can't. And the first part, it sounds like she doesn't have it naturally. And in the second part, he says, when he says can't, it's like she's unable to. Again, she is 8 months pregnant with twins. But who is sounding more infantile here?
Yeah.
Now she walked back over to the table and placed the keys onto the table. She does pick them up and off the table and then places them back on the table during this exchange. But again, she's not crying, she's not yelling or screaming at him. She's trying to remain composed.
You throw your hat, you give up so easily.
I don't give up.
Stephen says, you throw your hat, you give up so easily. Why is Stephen harping on this so much? Why must he feel the need to win this argument? It's just groceries.
You give up so easily. I just said the only way out of this is discipline and respect. You said, then we're at an impasse.
Stephen, no, we are.
Now, I do want to point out that I did neglect to mention that there was a jump back at 37 minutes 9 seconds, where the camera seems to jump back about 4 seconds, back to 37 minutes 5 seconds. However, because of the conversation, because the conversation flow seemed to be uninterrupted, I'm willing to bet that that is more of a glitch on the Ring camera's end than it is someone actually editing the footage. I could be wrong, but it is only 4 seconds jump backwards. Also, I didn't want to interrupt their very important conversation.
I love you, but Stephen, your abuse is sick.
Now here, Hillary says the word abuse. Again, Crowder started it by saying abuse at the start of the video. Now she says abuse in response to him. Now she does say I love him, and yes, that could be manipulative. But again, who instigated the argument here from what we can tell from this leaked 3-minute conversation? And who is persisting in having this argument?
Watch it. Watch it. Fucking watch it.
Also, who is telling the other person that they need to fucking watch it?
I'm gonna let go. I'll get what you need me to get. And I need some space. We need to just stop engaging for a little bit.
Hillary is trying to say, okay, look, I will let it go. I will get what you need, and I need space.
okay? I love you. I love you very much.
Now she says, I love you, and then long pause, and then says, I love you very much.
I don't love you. That's the big problem.
Crowder now says, I don't love you, that's the big problem. If she was trying to manipulate him, yes, that obviously didn't work. But she was but even if she was trying to manipulate him, what was his response? It wasn't, we'll talk about this later. He says, I don't love you, that's the big problem. I've never received love from you. He immediately goes into all or nothing statements.
I've never received love from you, and
Keep in mind, again, she is 8 months pregnant with their twins.
the fact is when I go, look, I need you to do A, B, C, and D, you just be disciplined about it, you go, no.
What were you asking her to do, Crowder? Was it the alleged dog medicine that was allegedly harmful to infants? I mean, fetuses in this case.
But I love you more than life itself. Okay. Put on some gloves. No. But I love you more than life itself.
If if this is all about the dog medicine not being beneficial to fetuses, and that could actually hurt the fetuses, remember, she's 8 months pregnant with twins. Anything that could possibly hurt the fetuses could also possibly affect her. And you don't want to risk having them come early, because then that's several days in the NICU waiting for your babies to be okay to leave the hospital. Shouldn't you be more considerate, or dare I say it, pro-life, and help your wife out because she's concerned about it affecting the fetuses?
That's not fair. It's not fair, and it's disingenuous.
I would say it's more disingenuous to proclaim that you are pro-life and yet expect your heavily pregnant wife to do everything for you and bow before you and do as you order her to do. That's far more disingenuous than what she is doing. At least she, from what I can tell, is honestly pro-life. You are just pro-lives as long as they are bending over backwards for you.
Hillary, you're right in that. Become someone, let's admit it, day in and day out, worthy.
Oh, now he says you need to become a wife worthy. You've been married since August 25th, 2012. How can you speak to your wife of over 10 years like that?
A wife worthy? No, not a...
Here we see the video jump from 12:38 7 seconds to 12:38 15 seconds. And that seems to be a natural jump given how his statement was cut off at the end.
Wife. I didn't say as a wife. Hillary, come on now.
I'm not going to engage anymore.
Now she says, I'm not going to engage anymore. Now, again, keep in mind that as far as we know, no divorce attorneys were involved at this point. And she wasn't aware of him hiring a divorce attorney. And the twins aren't born. And he didn't at this point allegedly cut them off. They both use terms like abuse, and she's specifically using terms like engage. She's saying, I'm not going to engage anymore. That tells me that that the part that was alleged about them both being in therapy, or at least Stephen being in therapy, that is accurate. Because only therapists use words like in context similar to this, such as abuse or engage, and both parties are using them. Granted, one is using it a little bit more to his advantage, and the other one is trying to get away.
I'm going to go. Text me what you need. I'll get you what you need. I love you. I'm committed to you.
Now at this point, Hillary is back over at the entrance to the house, the patio door, and she has stretched her shirt over her pregnant belly, which is still sticking out, by the way. Stephen Crowder took the cigar out of his mouth and puffed a big breath of smoke towards her general direction. Yes, she left a big pause at the end after saying that she loves him and she's committed to him. But again, who is doing the most amount of whining here? And who should be acting like the adult but isn't? And who is being forced to act more like the adult here?
Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm not gonna.
He says, "Are you? Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to do those things?"
Committed enough to do those things? You're not committed to anything. You're not committed to anything.
He says, "You're not committed to anything," to his 8-month pregnant wife who has twins. And who's been married to him since August 25th, 2012.
You just said I love you. I'm committed to it.
Now he gets up off the couch and follows her into the house with the cigar in his hand.
Walk the dogs, put on some gloves.
Oh, now he wants his 8-month pregnant wife to walk the dogs and put on some gloves.
Walk the dogs, put on some gloves. Are you committed?
You seem to have nowhere better to be, Stephen. Why are you harping on this, and why do you continue to bring it up? Your wife tried to disengage and go do the groceries, and you can't let it go. Pregnant wife, worried about potential harm to the fetuses. Allegedly pro-life man ordering her around, not caring about her concern for their babies.
Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things?
At this point, it looks like she had accidentally left the keys on one of the chairs of the patio, so she went back to grab it as he's talking to her.
Walk the dogs, put on some gloves. Are you committed?
Now she lets the keys back down onto the chair as she looks around and then goes back towards the patio door to re-enter the house.
Enough to get the medication the dogs. Don't you?
Here he says committed enough to get the medication, which leads me to believe that the part alleged about the dog medication was accurate. Now I get to the end of the video where it says, as the Crowders head inside, Stephen gets angrier and angrier, and by his own admission screams, quote, "I will fuck you up," end quote, at his pregnant wife Hillary, who then flees their home.
Get ready.
Oh, poor Hopper just trails behind after they both entered the house.
Where's your boundary?
Well, thanks for watching my video. I hope that you got something out of my take on this. I'm very glad that it was leaked to the press, because if it wasn't for Crowder alleging that he picked wrong, which insinuates that his wife is to blame for everything, we wouldn't get a true sense of what Crowder is. I hope that if you are in a relationship with a person like this, regardless if it's man or woman, I hope you are looking for some therapy, and I hope you have a safe place to get out to. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, leave a comment down below, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.